you're planning a trip to Europe and you're not quite sure how the math is going to add up for everything included in that trip, things like flights, hotels, experiences, maybe that's even what's been holding you back from planning the trip in the first place. If so, I've got you covered. Today, we'll go through a real Europe trip at 3 very, very different price points. Hi, I'm Angela, and 7 years ago, I moved from the US to Europe. Ever since, I've been traveling throughout this continent and writing about it on my blog, Notes from Europe. If this is your first time joining me, be sure to subscribe for new Europe travel videos each week. All right, today I am going to take you behind the scenes of the trip planning process to show you one trip 3 ways. Before we dive into real numbers, let's establish the baseline for the kind of trip that we're talking about. We're going to focus on a trip for 2 travelers sharing a hotel room. The trip length is going to be 8 days and 7 nights. They'll be departing from a major US city. For this example, I actually used Chicago's O'Hare Airport. And the timing of the trip is going to be in the shoulder season month of October. It's not peak summer, but it's also not just before the holidays. For the itinerary itself, I wanted to choose a major European capital and a regional destination nearby so that the travelers could have a little bit of variety in their trip. In the examples I'm going to show you, this means 4 nights in Paris and 3 nights in nearby Rennes. This means that the major transportation for this trip is going to include round-trip international airfare and then that one round-trip train journey to get them from Paris out to Rennes. In terms of currency, everything I'm about to show you is in USD, and the pricing that I'm showing you is based on what the average person could expect to pay. So there are no last-minute deals here. There are no, hotels being paid for with points or anything like that. This is real typical pricing that you're going to see. All right, a quick note here. If you want to see what the pricing looks like for a solo traveler, let me know by commenting solo budget in the comments below. There are a lot of ways that the math can change if you're traveling by yourself. And if enough of you want to see that math, then I'll be sure to make a video about it. All right, let's dive into what this trip would look like for a budget traveler. So here you're kind of trying to save money on every element of the trip. And this is what it looks like. So we have round-trip economy airfare from Chicago O'Hare to Charles de Gaulle. For hotels, we have 4 nights in a budget 3-star hotel in Paris and 3 nights in a budget 3-star hotel in Rennes. For the airport, local, and intercity transportation, this means that they're going to be taking the airport train to the city center. The majority of their navigating throughout the city of Paris is going to be on public transportation. They're going to take the round-trip train between Paris and Rennes, and then taking local transit in Rennes, nothing private. Okay, so that's what the number looks like for basic transport. Now, food and drinks here represents things like bakery breakfasts, casual lunches, inexpensive dinners, maybe even stopping into the grocery store for like snacks and other food items. They're going to be having coffee and water, but very limited on the alcohol. It's really like a budget food. When it comes to their attractions, they are going to be doing a lot of free sightseeing, plus a few paid attractions. And they're going to do 1 tour when they're in Rennes. But it's affordable. It's like a group trip. It's not going to be something private. You can see here that because the trip itself is rather affordable, they don't have to pay a lot for a basic comprehensive travel insurance policy for 2 travelers. They're spending about $40 for an eSIM for the number of days that they're gone. And here, the miscellaneous expenses, they might include a few tips. Maybe they forgot some toiletries, so they have to pop into a pharmacy, and maybe a few small souvenirs. So there you have it. That's like a budget itinerary. Now, I should point out here that on the budget end, you could even go a little more budget if you wanted to. So a lot of people may just totally cut out that Paris hotel and opt to stay in a hostel. That would drastically cut the accommodations expense. But again, I wanted to kind of keep the basic integrity of the trip the same across all of the budgets. But there are probably a few ways to save some money on this one. But if we're really trying to compare apples to apples, then this is what the numbers look like. All right, so let's take a look at the mid-range trip. Now, it's the same trip, but there are some upgraded choices. First up, we've got nonstop premium economy airfare from Chicago to Charles de Gaulle. And this is actually kind of crazy. Premium economy has spiked in cost over the last few years because travelers love it. It really hits a budget sweet spot for a lot of people. For accommodations, this means they're going to be doing 4 nights in a central 4-star hotel in Paris and 3 nights in a similar 4-star hotel in Rennes. For transport, they're still going to be taking the airport train into the city, and they're still going to use a lot of public transport to get around in Paris. But on this trip, they're also going to take the occasional taxi, and they might even reserve special seats or travel in first class on that train between Paris and Rennes. You can see that the dining expenditure here is nearly double, and that includes things like cafe or hotel breakfasts, restaurant lunches, and higher-end dinners where they may be imbibing with wine or cocktails. This itinerary also includes a lot more paid attractions, a Seine River cruise, a guided Paris tour, a visit to Versailles, and multiple tours in Rennes. You can see that the travel insurance is also inching up for this itinerary because the prepaid cost of the trip is a little bit higher. One thing that's going to be the same here as well is the eSIM cost for 2 travelers. And here the miscellaneous expenses are also a little bit higher. It represents things like hotel incidentals and minor unplanned purchases, as well as a few tips and booking fees. All right, now let's take a look at what the luxury version of this trip costs. So right out the gate, we've got nonstop United Polaris business class airfare from ORD to Charles de Gaulle for 2 people. That's a big jump from the premium economy. Again, just like with the budget example, and hey, you could stay in a hostel and save a lot more money. On the luxury side, there are plenty of people who will even travel privately. They may not opt for a commercial flight. But again, I wanted to keep this as apples to apples of a comparison. So that's why we put commercial flights here. For the hotels, we've got 4 nights in a central 5-star hotel in Paris and 3 nights in a 5-star hotel near Rennes. Now, you can probably find some less expensive 5-star hotels in Paris, but I specifically wanted to choose those that are centrally located, right? So that they could be in the center of town. And that's really kind of on the affordable side. We could have spent a lot more on the hotels there. You'll notice that the transportation cost is very different here, and that's because they are going to have a structurally different experience when it comes to getting around town. That means no train to the city center. They are taking a private airport transfer. They're going to be doing first class train travel between Paris and Rennes, and they'll be taking taxis or hired drivers to entirely replace any type of public transportation. The dining budget is also a lot higher here. That represents luxury hotel breakfasts, upscale lunches, fine dining dinners, probably a couple of Michelin-starred dinners in there as well. And most of those dinners are going to probably include a bottle of wine or premium cocktails. When it comes to experiences, they've pretty much replaced any of the small group experiences with private luxury tours. So that means private museum and city tours, premium access experiences, a private Versailles excursion, and multiple private house visits in Rennes. Just like in the previous example, their travel insurance is going to be a little bit higher based on the higher prepaid cost of their trip. Mobile data is the same $40 here, but their incidentals and miscellaneous is a lot higher. This is representing things like higher tips, hotel incidentals, concierge arranged services, luggage assistance, and any other expenses that might pop up. Okay, now for the final comparison. So for the exact same 7-night trip to Paris and Rennes, The budget trip comes to about $4,950 for two people. The mid-range trip costs about $9,500 for two people, and the luxury trip lands around $34,700 for two people. Okay, what does this all mean? The biggest difference here is airfare. Moving from economy to premium economy nearly doubles the flight budget. And that next jump up to United Polaris business class, it adds more than $10,000 compared to the budget trip. Hotels are the next major jump. While the budget traveler is staying in a simple 3-star hotel, the mid-range traveler opts for a little bit more comfort in a 4-star property, while the luxury traveler is staying at a 5-star property, right? They are having exquisite service, larger rooms, and premium amenities. Dining and experiences also widen the gap by a lot. And I think that this might surprise people because they think the airfare will be a lot, the hotel will be a lot. But what we do once we're there, it won't be that bad. But it really does depend on what type of experience you're hoping to have. If you are fine with the budget trip, relying on casual meals, free sites, a few carefully selected activities, then you could save a ton of money. But as soon as you start booking nicer restaurants, guided tours, major landmarks, things start to get more expensive. And if you really want the luxury of Michelin-starred dining experiences or private guides, the cost really starts to accelerate. All right, so you might be wondering, which tier offers the best value? Perhaps not surprising, I think that the mid-range trip probably offers the best mix of comfort and value. But honestly, only you can decide what is the best budget for your trip. Listen, everybody's different. Some people are going to be fine with basic economy airfare and a 3-star hotel, but they want to dine at the best restaurant in town, right? Some people are going to be fine by optimizing for a different aspect of their trip. I think everyone's trip is going to be a little bit different based on what they value most. And here are a few more things to remember when you're budgeting for your trip. So destination matters. This Paris example is pretty simple, but if you are going to be going to, for example, Switzerland or the Nordics, you need to be aware that they are structurally more expensive destinations. On the flip side, if you're traveling to Eastern Europe or some parts of Southern Europe, they are structurally less expensive destinations. Season also really matters. High season raises prices, and low season makes it more likely that you can find last-minute deals or specials. At the same time, when you book also really matters. I know that a lot of people love to book a trip last minute. It's spontaneous, it's exciting, but last-minute flights are always going to cost you more than those that are purchased about 4 to 6 months out. And if you're traveling in high season, last-minute hotel reservations also tend to get more expensive rather than more affordable. The pace of your trip is also important. If you are going to be adding multiple destinations, then that means that your intercity transport costs are going to be a lot more expensive, whether that is using intercity trains or renting a car to get between places. And the traveler count does matter. Obviously, there's a totally different dynamic to group travel, but it can sometimes be nice to travel with a companion versus being a solo traveler because you're able to split a lot of costs and the per person cost of that trip can kind of be lower. If you're concerned about something like the daily average cost of the trip, then a longer trip might be better. You'll end up spending more overall, but because flights are a fixed cost, longer trips where you have more days, it can actually lead to like a lower cost per day. A lot of our friends in Australia will do that. It takes a lot of time to get to Europe from Australia, very expensive airfare as well. So instead of taking like a 10-day jaunt, a lot of Aussies will actually spend 4, 6, 8 weeks traveling so that they can really maximize the investment that they're putting into the airfare. I know a lot of people tend to overlook little costs, right? So things like mobile data, insurance, baggage fees, the cost for a taxi from the airport, a lot of things that maybe don't go into your trip budget, but you kind of pay on the fly. So don't forget about all of those. Why I put buffers in all of these, because it's also possible that you'll end up spending. And the final thing that you should always be mindful of is what the exchange rate is with the US dollar. Sometimes it can be advantageous for you to go travel. Other times the exchange rate may not be so advantageous for you. All right, so there you have it. One trip, 3 totally different budgets, 3 totally different ways of traveling. If this video gave you the confidence to finally start planning your trip to Europe, then you'll love my free email course, How to Plan a Trip to Europe. Over 8 easy to follow emails, I'll guide you step by step through the finer details of planning an international trip to Europe, from choosing your destination and booking your flights, to finding accommodations and handling all of those final details that will really make your trip memorable. It's completely free, and you can sign up via the link in the description below. And if you enjoyed this video, be sure to like and subscribe for more Europe travel videos like this every week. Want to hang out a little bit longer? Then I would recommend watching these videos next.